what were you doing before you started PowerMeans? And then what was the impetus to get you, starting your own company?
I was working for a family friend and, was seeing, was growing his business, helping him to get to a level that he wanted to get to. And, I realized that I really was never going to get to where I wanted to be without doing it on my own.
How do you balance kind of the mentorship side versus like the technical skills of getting people up to speed to be like PowerMeans ready?
There's a code compliant way to do things, and then there's the PowerMeans way to do things, right? It's usually built on an individual development plan that's tailored to those guys, to what really makes them tick, right?
All right, welcome to another edition of the Superpro podcast, the heartbeat of home service excellence. I'm Roland Ligtenberg. I'm your co-founder. I'm your co-host. I am also the co-founder of Housecall Pro, and I'm an advocate for all the hardworking pros out there to help make our homes better, safer, more comfortable. Through Housecall Pro, I have the privilege of supporting hundreds of thousands of pros just like you, empowering you all to achieve more, stress less, and redefine success in our industry. I'm super excited today because we've got a powerhouse in the mix here. This is KC Cranford. He's the founder of PowerMeans Electric Contracting. He's based in Texas. KC started a business back in 2015, and first he was focused on the commercial side. Now he's made a bold pivot toward doing both residential and commercial service work during the pandemic. He's projecting about $1.5 million in revenue this year, and he's on a mission to build strong, skilled professionals who take pride in their trade. We're going to ask him all about what that means. He's always got great branding. He knows what he's doing, and he's a Housecall Pro, Superpro. KC, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. Great to be here.
So let's just rewind the ticker tape a little bit here. 2015 rolled around. What were you doing before you started PowerMeans? And then what was the impetus to get you, starting your own company?
Yeah, I guess I was working for a family friend and, was seeing, was growing his business, helping him to get to a level that he wanted to get to. And, I realized that I really was never going to get to where I wanted to be without doing it on my own, So, it's funny, it reminds me of a story that I was sitting in my office one day and his daughter came in and said, I can't wait till I run this company. And she kind of came in with this look on her face, like, I'm not going to take over her dad's company, and I was like, oh, that's probably the first sign, So
yeah,
decided to go out on my own, figured I could help to solve people's electrical problems in a different way, right? I really wanted to focus on employee first and then build from there, right? If you take care of your employees, they take care of your customers, and then, the rest just kind of works.
Definitely. So you've got, now you've got 5 trucks on the road, you've got 3 in the office, 6 in the field. Where do you find these great individuals that kind of push forward your core values that you started the business with?
Well, man, it's hard. It's tough to find great guys. When you find them, you gotta keep them, right? That's another case in itself. But what I've found is that if you can hire from within, or if you can hire guys while they're young, they don't have too many bad habits that you got to break, right? You can teach them the right way. Get them working with some guys that have good work ethic and have them train under those type of guys. I kind of follow the philosophy: hire slow, fire fast, right? So in a sense of that, like, you want to take your time, know who you're hiring, right? Know who that qualified, perfect candidate is, and then base your, the candidates that you're interviewing based on that. And if you can do that first and put the right people in the right place, take your time with it, those people usually last, right? If you do get into a place where you got to hire quick, then I found that the best way is to really focus on their performance evaluations, making sure they're onboarded properly, and then if they're not working out, let them go. So
so talk to me about your onboarding. So I think this is the hard thing. You hire someone because they had a great interview, but then day one, what do they do? Are they doing ride-alongs? Are they shadowing? Are they just running through the office, or how do you do that? What does that look like?
Yeah, so day one, really, the recruiting process and our hiring process is pretty long drawn out, and I should say drawn out, but it's a step-by-step process that really allows us to evaluate them based on their character, their moral character. Are they a cultural fit with the company? Will they work well with our customers, right? And then are they trainable? So we find those things out, and then can you do what you say you can do? We have a testing phase to the hiring process. But once all that's done and they get an offer letter, they accept and they come on board, first day is really just, kind of acclimating them to the culture, right? So they'll get introduced to their buddy. We have a buddy system. So somebody in the company, they can kind of help walk them through some of those initial onboarding challenges, right? You get working for a new company with all those new company jitters, right? That's helpful. They do a ride along with me for a little bit during that day. We do a presentation, so they learn about our core values. They learn why it's important to work at PowerMeans, right? They learn why it's important for PowerMeans to be in business and why they're so important to PowerMeans, right? So if you can teach them that, get them to believe in that, get behind that, man, they'll stay on board. They'll work for you for a while,
Yeah. So tell me the why. Like, why work for PowerMeans, and then why does that make sense for them?
Well, we try to inspire people, right? So we try to find what really do you love about this job as an electrician, or is it do you really like music, right? Do you really like to do artwork? Can we find a way that when PowerMeans is ready for that position to make sure that you're ready to go into it, right? So but our why really is we want to help protect people's investments, right? That's the biggest thing. We understand that people's homes and their businesses are usually their number one investment. So they care about that more than most, right? And so, PowerMeans cares. And that's really kind of how we came up with it. We care more than the next guy because power means everything, right? Power means everything.
I love it. I mean, branding ties together. The mission makes sense. The values make sense. The why makes sense. And I think, for other folks that are just tuning in and listening, that is really what attracts top talent and keeps them around for a long time. You may look at those things and think like, oh, it's just marketing, it's just branding, and no, but I think all of those things kind of roll up together, especially if you get these folks to believe. I know you've got, unique path because you believe a lot in kind of a mentorship as a way to get people leveled up. How do you balance kind of the mentorship side versus like the technical skills of getting people up to speed to be like PowerMeans ready?
Yeah, well, we're in a trade where you really kind of got to know what you're doing, right? You're either coming in with a license, so we're expecting you to know some stuff. In that case, you're just having to learn about the way that we do things. There's a code compliant way to do things, and then there's the PowerMeans way to do things, right? Like it may not be code compliant to tape all your receptacles, but we'll do it that way to make sure that there's no potential for arc faults within that box when the wiring gets pushed back in. So, there's certain ways to do it, then there's our ways to do it. And so training that is important. But really from a separation of the training side, we have obviously our apprenticeships go through an apprenticeship program that's 4 years of in-class training while they're working 40 hours a week. So there's that program. And then we have ongoing training for like our techs will do generator training, install training, or sales training, right? So, but it's usually built on an individual development plan that's tailored to those guys, to what really makes them tick, right? Such as, what's a good example of that? I can't think of one at the moment, but so we tailor it for that, and then we also do regular employee development meetings. So essentially, where we'll have the manager and the employee meet on a monthly basis and really take the mentor hat on and put the manager cap off, right? And kind of help to guide them, make sure that there's no animosities that are brewing. It kind of opens the table to make sure that they know what's going on with the company knows what's going on with them, it's just a good place to give that space, and that helps to build that culture and to help mentor these guys and make sure they're working on what they like.
How often are you doing that? Is that like a monthly thing, a quarterly thing, a bi-yearly, a yearly? Like,
it's
what's
monthly.
the cadence?
It's a monthly thing.
Yeah,
for sure. That's the minimum. Now there may be some positions where it happens more often, right? If they're in a more accountable position, such as like maybe a financial controller, right? Or a project manager, we may want to do it every couple weeks, right? To make sure that everything's being taken care of, that all their needs as an employee is met, right? So, but at the bare minimum, it's once a month with every employee.
Yeah, and I think that's a great golden nugget for everyone here that's listening. Like, this isn't something you do like one time when they're hired and one time like years down the road. This is something that you're really consistent about. And if you do this, I feel like your employees really know that you care about them. They're going to in turn also care for your customers, and then also do it, the PowerMeans way, which means, look, like you said, there's code compliant, sure, but then what's that extra step above, and making the work that you do look artful, make it look nice, do clean work.
Correct.
Code doesn't mean clean. Code just means, don't burn the house down.
You got to take pride in what you do. If you take pride in what you do, it shows in the level of quality that you install your product. So, that's super important to us. If you ask, we're not the cheapest guy out there, right? I don't want to ever be the cheapest guy, but I'll promise you we're the best. You're not going to find a better electrician, right? So you get what you pay for, type of thing, right?
That's right. And I think also, with the branding, and we'll talk about it in a second, but like the way that Housecall Pro makes you look, and the customer communications, all those things allows you to charge this premium price to be able to hire the best talent and retain the best talent. It all kind of comes together in this big, I was thinking about it like recycle triangle, just like it all just like feeds on itself over and over again. You started, you've been around since 2015. That's when you started the business. Fast forward about 8 years or so, and you're like, okay, now we got to start using Housecall Pro. What was that moment? Like, what happened? What was going on? What were you using where you're like, all right, we got to like step up our game a little bit here? Like, what was that moment that you remember? Okay, now we got to do this.
Well, I think it was a shift from us going from focusing on commercial construction work to switching to service-based work, right? And that was merely a function of cash flow, right? When you're in commercial construction, you're working for general contractors who usually have a pay-when-paid contract, right? So you don't get paid as a subcontractor for sometimes a very long time, right? And you better have a bankroll to fund that, or you're going to run out of cash. Cash is gas for your car, right? If you got a Ferrari and you're starting in Florida, you're trying to get to Cali, you're not going to get far without cash, right? So, again, it's that shift that we made. I was like, all right, when I remember we had payroll coming up, a third one in a row where no big payments had come in. And payroll, I had like 40 guys on the field, right? So payroll is very expensive, $80,000 every 2 weeks, right? It's pretty crazy. So you really need those checks coming in. Well, when a customer delays and they say, we'll get you in the check run next week, right? It's like, I can't afford that. Right. When I had AR, my AR account was over $1.5 million is when I said, this is crazy. Right. Most of that's over 90 days. Cause that's just pretty standard, 60 to 90, in construction, commercial construction. And so I always knew I wanted to get service work going. Service is cash quick, right? You can do the work, get paid for it right away. If I want to extend terms, that's my choice. I just don't blanket extend terms to every general contractor in the world, right? That's a challenge. Right. So that shift to saying, I can't be doing this work for free anymore, or getting beat up on my prices, or, and shift to service, that made me realize I have to be able to provide customers pricing on the spot. I need to provide, like, my whole model has to change, right? The entire part from lead generation to your branding, everything changes when you significantly change your target market. And so that's what we did. And, Housecall Pro has been incredible for us. We were Man, I've had to run around with some software. So I will say you've got a great product, and you've built a machine of a product. And what I love about it, it just keeps evolving and improving, right? And you see some companies get out there and they make a great product and then they just sell that and they ride off into the sunset, whereas it seems like Housecall just keeps coming out with more and more things that us subcontractors can actually use, whether it's a cleaning business or an HVAC company or an electrician. If you're working directly with homeowners, small business owners, it works well with as well. Man, there's really for the value, the price, and what you get from it, the value is second to none.
Yeah, I know. I'm glad you say that. I think a lot of people are like, oh, well, Housecall Pro is only for this or only for that. The reality is it spans lots of different trades, but also even within a trade, it could be residential, light commercial. You could be doing a little bit of residential new construction. It's like a mix of things, but the reality is if you provide a service, you want to get paid for it. Housecall Pro, that's where we really try to make that a really smooth process. Probably when you're using commercial grade software, doing bigger jobs with those, you're using more of the outlooks of the world, or you're tracking time with things like T-sheets. And then at the end of the day, you got to make this massive bill, and there's just, a lot of different things that you have to use to keep track of. With Housecall Pro, we try to just put it all in one and then constantly roll out features to kind of keep our pro in one spot so they don't have to mess around with other tools and copy and paste and move stuff and spreadsheets and Google Sheets and all that kind of stuff.
Well, you find you get when you have all these different software options that you're using, you get siloed. Your data gets siloed. So then you have double data entry and some stuff that's in one system and not in another. And what you'll find happens is you need a central place of truth for your information for your business, right? Like you need a place to go where you can trust the information is real and that everybody's using that. If you have multiple places and this person has to update this data, you never really know what you're looking at. And as a business owner, that is the worst way you can run a business. I mean, you might be looking at a dark road, but if you're got a shift turning, you better know, you got to be looking. Right. So some people just want to put their head in the sand and not look at it. And Housecall gives you the ability to kind of see a lot of things. So it's pretty cool. I think it's also pretty cool that they ask for input from the community so much. Right. So when you feel like you've got a solution, right, which you and I should talk off level about some ideas I have for Housecall Pro potentially.
Pro votes.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible to see some people comes up, this idea would be great. I think that may have been how progress billing came out, which is incredible for somebody who's trying to do some light commercial work and some residential. Well, now I got a progress bill. I mean, it doesn't give you all the AIA billing functionality and things like that, but you don't need that to get a quick invoice out the door. So, it gives what you need. And, it's just been great. I refer as many people as I can to it. So
that's awesome to hear. Yeah, I think, look, when people are out there looking at different software, the biggest thing is, are they out there still active? Are the founders still there? Do they have a good team and a big team? Because software is not cheap. So, it might be nice to use something bespoke with a handful of people that built the software, but the reality is you need, thousands of people and real capital to go build this kind of stuff out. But then are they listening to customers, right? And hopefully as a service business, you're listening to your customers because your customer will be like, hey, KC, can you do generators? Well, before you're like, I don't do generators, but now you're like, heck yeah, I do generators. Texas, let's go do some generators. You're not just only doing panel upgrades and all that kind of stuff. And so the same thing too for Housecall Pro, we've got to listen to our pros, and so in the community, people can say hey, wouldn't it be cool if you could do this? Wouldn't it be cool if you could do this? And I always joke a little bit, my mom always goes, well, aren't you done just building? Can't you just keep selling the software, just be done building? It's like, no. There's an infinite amount of provos, an infinite amount of things to build. This is a subscription software that you pay monthly for, and that pays the bills to hire the engineers to keep building and building and building it out. And it might not have all the things, like you said, that one would want, but also you got to balance the ability to keep things simple and easy to use. So when you're hiring new people, they can be up and running in seconds versus having to teach them how to use software for a month, that's just that's no fun, and that's not productive, and that, it's a hidden cost to other
Very much.
softwares that people might not realize, but that's painful. That hurts. That kills the
Well, I've
bottom
gone
line for
through
sure.
that. I've personally gone through that. We were oversold on a solution. We were, you get to a point when you start doing big revenue jobs, right? And there's kind of this ceiling that you get, right? Everybody will talk about it as a bell curve where you're like, you build up to revenue level and you get up to like 3 million, 4 million. It's hard to cross over because what you need to do, the systems that you need in place to scale, it gets hard. Most people just don't get there. Well, we were getting to that place, and I thought that we needed to get an ERP solution, an enterprise resource management.
Planning. Yeah,
something.
Planning. Yeah.
And so we were oversold on this product that cost like 50 grand to initially set up, and then it was training for 3 months before a go live date that was all $250 an hour. So it was like, by the end of it all, when we went live, we ended up not using it, and it was $100,000 mistake, right? So you don't need to make that mistake when it comes to software, right? Use what you can that provides that drives revenue, right? Housecall Pro helps to drive revenue by giving the customer a beautiful user experience, right? That drives revenue. If you remove that from the equation, maybe your customer won't call you because the next guy has something like that, right? So
that's right.
That's important. Some thing that's going to give your bookkeeper everything in a nice tight binder, that's your bookkeeper. What are you paying him to do? Right? You don't need that to pay all that extra money for that. So I don't want to name any other names of software, but who I'm talking about, and they'll oversell you.
And I hear that a lot. For Housecall Pro, we're really focusing on $0 to $10 million a year band. We have companies that are doing bigger than that, but we really focus on that 0 to 10 because that's where 95% of pros land. And don't forget, once you're doing a couple million a year, you're in the 0.01%, net worth, your business, if you do it right in the entire United States. So it's so nice to serve, and champion our pros here. You were talking a little bit about just driving revenue. I know you like and use the pipeline feature. What was that moment in time when you switched that thing on, or how did you hear about it? Or did you just discover it? And then what was it like maybe before and after? And maybe explain to others, and not me explaining, but maybe you explain, what does pipeline even do?
So pipeline is, it's very similar to, I think it's a Kanban board, right? So you have buckets that you put your to-do tasks into, and that are, labeled a certain bucket, right? So, customers contacted, or estimate pending, or estimate sent, approval pending, job scheduled, job invoiced, customer payment made, right? Those key stages along the customer life cycle, having a place to kind of move those customers through it visually is really helpful for a lot of people, right? So, again, that's one of the things I mentioned. I've got some improvements to pipeline that I think could be helpful. That's one of the great things about, the member votes, is that you can actually put those out there, and then you guys will undoubtedly improve it. So that's, one of the coolest parts about Housecall, in my opinion. This pipeline is great. Some of the other features that
would you say is the most underrated feature, KC? What's the feature that you think doesn't get enough attention, but dang, is it good? But some people wouldn't even really recognize it, maybe. But it's underrated.
So I think just the customer communication process. Right?
Yeah.
That's what's really great about it. I like recently there's been more of the little notification on off toggle, notify customer with this because when that's there, you can decide whether or not to notify them, and not just notify everyone, because that gets annoying, right?
Yep.
Or you're making a change in the system that you don't want the customer to necessarily
you're like rescheduling
about.
it. You don't need to send a notification for that.
Exactly, right?
Uh-huh.
So that's super helpful. I mean, just be the customer knowing that you're on the way, the customer knowing when you finish the project, what the invoice being sent to their phone. Most people, at least residential homeowners, everything's here, right? Everything's right there. So, from at the end of the day, I think that the customer notification process is really probably one of the most important features at the end of the day, because without that, then you can't give the customer that experience with it. And without the customer experience, then it's just any old task management solution internally for your company.
That's right. Yeah. And I think it is totally the most underrated because it's not something that you're like, oh, I'm buying customer communication. It's just a part of the product.
Just part of it.
Yeah. It just makes it work and it makes you seem bigger than you are. It makes you seem even more professional than you might even be, so those little extra touch points, I see them all the time in reviews on our pros Google reviews, right? Where it's like, oh yeah, they even let me know they're on the way. And it's like, does that sound kind of like what you would want to do? But you can see how homeowners are so surprised by such just transparent communication. Boom. It just works.
Another cool thing is the third party integration, right? So you've got the Mojito Force app where you can get your trucks tied into that. And so now when it says that when your tech says on my way, it'll let them track the tech and give them an idea when they're going to get there, right? So again, user experience. User experience is critical. If you got a lady at home that's trying to put her kid to sleep for a nap, right? And you're going to show up and she's like, all right, they're on their way. I got to not put the baby down. If she can click and see that you're going to be 40 minutes before you get there, then she can do her thing. It's it's so underrated. So underrated.
Yeah.
So little things like that. The customer communication is great. Yeah.
For sure. And last question, is there any feature that you know now that you're like, dang, I should have been using this the moment I started using Housecall Pro?
Probably the shift to providing more options to customers. Right? I think that's something that's pretty. It's pretty important for I guess up and comers to know about and to try to capitalize on. Right. So I don't remember where I heard the stat, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. Somebody might in the comments, but they say that 90% of the projects that you price and you don't go over it with the customer in person. Like if you leave the job and send it to them later, 90% of those jobs you don't get, right? There's something to do about the customer not wanting to say no to your face, right? You don't want to give them that pressure, but just asking for the sale is one thing a lot of people don't do. But if you don't have a price to them, a lump sum price to give where they can see what this number is going to cost, then they're not going to go with you. So, and then giving the customer options allows them to go, it's not, do you want to use us or not use us? It's like, we know you're going to use us. Which option do you want to go with? Do you want to go good,
you
better,
put that
best?
really well. Yeah, that's a good golden nugget. Yep.
So it's like not necessarily like the confidence. It's not a hubris, if you will, in a confidence level. It's just like, we know how good we are. Like, this is what you get with us, right? So, it's super important for that.
I think it's good, when you're giving options too, you're not presuming and knowing what the customer might be able to afford or not. And so you might not know, like, you know what, your generator, you should give them the small, medium, large option, even if they ask for the small, because they might be like, you know what, I don't know, climate change makes it freeze and we need a generator more, so we need large, but you just don't know. They might have asked you for something, but don't presume, all the things. And if you don't give them the option, you don't give yourself the option for those bigger jobs either.
Yeah, I mean, people are calling you to be an expert because they're not an expert. So if you look at sales like, I'm just trying to sell them stuff, no, you're educating them on something that they're not an expert on, right? So if you know what you're selling and you believe in what you're selling, the product sells itself, right? Mm-hmm. You've already done most of the work on the marketing side. when you're in the door giving them an estimate, right? They've already qualified your company and what your online brand and presence is. They've already spoken to your office and they've already done all that scheduling process. It's on you to lose the job at this point, right? So, but if you don't give options to customers, a lot of times they may say, all right, I'll get back to you or think about it. It just changes the tone from saying yes or no to which one
are you going to pick? Yeah.
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 And psychology even tells us that, like, for what it is, human nature, you don't want people to think of you as being cheap, if you will. So, like, they don't usually pick the lowest one. They usually go to the middle of the road. So, there's a bunch of reasons why you should provide those options. Customer appreciates it more, but Housecall gives you that option, that ability, pretty seamlessly. I mean, there's some things that I've suggested to improve it, and I'm sure that, like I said, they'll get made. But yeah, it's pretty awesome, that feature too. Underrated, and I didn't utilize it at first, but we do now.
Yeah, yeah, and look, I think a lot of people might not necessarily have the confidence to give multiple options, even if there's things that customers didn't even ask for. I always tell folks, you've got high seasons, shoulder seasons, and low seasons. And it's so nice if you go through the low seasons, just following up with homeowners, being like, hey, KC, I know that I quoted you for a new panel upgrade. I don't know if you have any new energy needs here. I know that we just flipped out the 5 GFCIs you called me for, but have you thought about that panel upgrade? And imagine, like, you've got this list of options of people that you've given. It just gives you a reason to reach back out to them. And so when people are like, well, I don't have anything to do. I'm like, well, did you give anybody options? Because any person you've given any option to, it doesn't have to be for that same service that they called you for either. So hopefully people take that away as, the options don't have to be the same service they called you for. And so imagine what are other things your business offers, because you can say, hey, you know what, Casey, I noticed some other things in your house while I was out and about and looking at things. I gave you a couple other options. You might not need them now, but maybe in the future, if you're thinking about doing any upgrades or those things, just so you've got a price so you can just budget for it. Because I hate when this kind of stuff pops up and I don't have it budgeted for. Does that sound fair, Casey? Yeah, great. Thank you for giving me these options. Now they're thanking you for giving you the options. And now you've got something to follow up with them, especially during low season. So that, when people are like, well, I'm not busy, I don't have anything to do. It's like, well hold on. Call all your existing customers, all the open estimates, all the open options. Those are easy conversations to have. Those are easy.
And they're all existing customers that you've already, they already trust.
They know you. Yeah, they know you, and hopefully they've rated you, right? They've used, they've left you something on Google or wherever you might want those reviews. Casey, so you've given a ton of great advice. What advice would you give your younger self? Maybe travel back to like 2015. What would you tell young Casey? What did you tell Casey a decade ago? This is what you got to do, man. Like, do this or don't do this.
Oh man, I guess. Out of all of my years in business, the thing I wish I did first or did sooner was developing systems, right? Developing standard procedures and training your guys on them. Because honestly, like the day you start your business, you should be trying to think about how you're going to get out of it, right? You should be planning your exit as you start. Am I looking to sell the business? Is it going to be a long-term, cash cow for me? But ultimately, you'll never free yourself from the business if you can't put your mind or your answers to all of these questions that your employees will have in writing for them to refer to, right? So standard operating procedures, system action plans, RACI matrix, those types of things can help really keep a team on track and help your projects be standardized, right? High quality all the time, and consistent, right? And so ultimately you go to McDonald's, you want to get the same burger every time you go there. And when people use your service, they want to get the same service or better every time they use you. So, you need to make sure that your team knows how to provide that same service. And so building systems, that'll free yourself from the business eventually. Awesome. Yeah.
That's a good tip. Last question here, Casey. What does it mean to be a Superpro to you?
Man, I just like to be able to be involved in the community. You know what I mean? Kind of help to, for what it's worth, mentors other business owners and entrepreneurs in the mistakes that I made on the way. Being able to do things like this and coming on and meeting an entrepreneur like yourself is pretty cool. Access to the community online is awesome. So, I mean, being a Superpro, I mean, I think that everybody at PowerMeans is a Superpro, and this is just a title that, was befitting for the crew.
That's awesome. I love hearing that. KC, thanks so much for all of your wisdom, sharing all of your tips. There's so many great golden nuggets sprinkled within this whole episode. For people that want to connect with you, where might they find you online if they want to call you up and say hi or check out your business?
Yeah, I mean, just search PowerMeans Electric, PowerMeans on Google, www.powermeans.com. We got Instagram, Facebook, you just PowerMeans. Yeah, you'll find us.
Easy to find. I love it. Awesome. I love it. Good branding. All right. And for everybody else, thanks for tuning in for another edition of our Superpro podcast. Super excited to bring another special guest next week. If you liked what you heard, please support, like, subscribe, all the things. Leave us some comments. I like to hear it. And give me some pro votes while you're at it. All right. See y'all later.
See ya. Thanks, buddy.
The Superpro podcast is brought to you by Housecall Pro, the leading platform for the home service industry. Housecall Pro streamlines your workflows and simplifies everything from scheduling and dispatching to communication and billing. Unlock the full potential of your home service business with Housecall Pro. Work smarter and more efficiently with streamlined workflows and detailed analytics. Win more business and serve your customers well, every single time. Join more than 40,000 home service pros who have already revolutionized their businesses. Work smarter with streamlined workflows, get organized with centralized information, and scale your business your way. Learn more at housecallpro.com.